Good morning, America. Breaking overnight, a Mexican Navy ship loses control and slams into New York's iconic Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh my God.
2 crew members killed, more than a dozen injured. Witnesses shocked at the scene unfolding right before their eyes.
It looks very surreal.
The investigation this morning.
New this morning, Pope Leo officially installed as the leader of the world's 1.4 billion Catholics, greeting the tens of thousands of people in St. Peter's Square.
You can hear the applause right there. That is Pope Leo, the first time we are seeing him in the Pope Mobile.
Taking part in a solemn ceremony steeped in tradition. Our live report from Vatican City.
Disaster zones. At least 27 people killed across several states in a widespread severe weather outbreak. Neighborhoods and lives shattered. Samara tracking the new storm threats this morning.
Fertility clinic explosion, a deadly blast being called an act of terrorism when a car explodes outside the Palm Springs clinic. The latest on the investigation.
Alzheimer's test. The FDA grants approval for a simple blood test to help diagnose the devastating illness. We're talking with the doctor about this massive medical advance.
Sports Sunday. It was the Stars for Dallas on the ice. Plus, ESPN's Chine Ogwumike with the teams looking to advance in the NBA playoffs. And the season gets off to a strong start in the WNBA.
Live from ABC News in New York, this is Good Morning America.
And we do say Good Morning America on this Sunday. We have a lot to get to this morning. That incredible story overnight, that breaking news, a Mexican Navy ship slamming into New York City's iconic Brooklyn Bridge.
The mast hit the underside of the bridge, sending sailors who were on that mast tumbling, others clinging for their lives. Onlookers absolutely stunned at the scene unfolding before them on a warm spring night.
At least 2 people were killed and more than a dozen others injured. The incident setting off a huge emergency response. ABC's Rena Roy is at the scene with the very latest. Rena, good morning.
Whit, good morning to you. That's right. This bridge is a major tourist destination here, and it looked to be pretty busy when officials say that boat lost power and slammed right into it.
Overnight, shock and horror after a Mexican Navy ship carrying hundreds crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge, killing 2 and injuring several on board. Dramatic videos capturing the moment it happened around 8:30 p.m. Saturday. The boat approaching the bridge, slowly making its way under. Then you can see that tall mast slam into the bridge, crumbling.
The ship is a goodwill vessel that has been on the waters for more than 20 years, sharing Mexican culture. Its name is Cuauhtémoc.
Onlookers filming from the nearby pier, some running as the ship looms closer and closer. People on board seen hanging off those broken masts. First responders rushing to the scene. Of the 277 on board, at least 2 killed, according to officials. 17 others injured, 2 still in critical condition. The training ship had been docked at a nearby pier and had just departed for its journey to Iceland.
The captain that was maneuvering the ship lost power of the ship in the current. Mechanical function caused the ship to go right into the pillar of the bridge, hitting the mast of the ship where there was a couple of sailors on top.
It looks very surreal.
Flavio Moreira was sightseeing with his family for his graduation weekend when he saw it all happen, taking this video and speaking to us shortly after from nearby.
It kept coming and coming and coming. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is so odd. It's getting too close. And then it crashed. It crashed under the bridge.
Now, officials also confirming the bridge has no damage here and nobody had fallen into the water. The NTSB now leading the urgent investigation. Gio.
And that part is very good news, Rena. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and bring in ABC News contributor John Nance. John, good morning. Thank you for being here. We heard right there that it appears the ship lost some power. Incredibly, that bridge is still intact. What is the NTSB going to be looking at here?
They're going to be looking at everything. This is exactly the same as with an aircraft crash. They're going to be looking at the propulsion system, what did and didn't happen. Obviously, there was a stiff wind blowing the ship, and who was at the controls and precisely what their interchanges were. All of these things will be up for massive consideration.
And John, as you know, the Brooklyn Bridge is one of the busiest in the country. It wasn't that late. And in those videos, we actually see so many cars driving on that bridge when the accident happened. It's just incredible, right, that no one on the bridge was even injured.
That is kind of amazing because the intersection of the top of the mast with the bridge, you would have thought that might go over the top of the bridge, the cars. In fact, what we've got here is a situation where a wooden ship is really no match for an iron bridge, and that is a very tough bridge.
All right, John Nance, thank you so much for your insight there. We appreciate it. Janae.
All right, Gio. Now to the installation of Pope Leo, the first Roman Catholic Pope from the U.S., formally taking over this morning as leader of the church. ABC's Maggie Rulli joins us live from Vatican City with the latest there. Good morning, Maggie.
Hey, Janae, good morning. What a celebration this morning in St. Peter's Square. Guys, it was incredible to witness the official start of Pope Leo's papacy. In his homily, he spoke of peace and unity and laid out what he sees as the future of the Catholic Church.
This morning, tens of thousands crowd St. Peter's Square to mark the official start of Pope Leo XIV's papacy.
You can hear the applause right there. That is Pope Leo. The first time we are seeing him in the Pope Mobile. He has left St. Peter's Square, going down into Rome right now. You can still hear the applause behind me.
At one point, the Pope Mobile stopping for Pope Leo to hold and bless a baby in the crowd. The Mass, rich in tradition, Pope Leo praying before the tomb of St. Peter before receiving the symbols of the papacy. The pallium, a woolen vestment worn over his shoulders, and the fisherman's ring, a signet ring bearing the image of St. Peter and traditionally used to seal letters. The symbols presented by cardinals representing Europe, Africa, and Asia.
Un saluto ai pellegrini venuti in occasione del Giubileo.
Pope Leo addressing the faithful outside, urging peace and unity. In the crowd, more than 150 delegations from around the world, including Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, as well as President Zelensky of Ukraine. Today may be his official start, but Pope Leo has already taken a proactive role in global affairs, calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and a just and lasting peace in Ukraine, with the Vatican offering to host peace talks between Ukraine and Russia.
And guys, the Vatican says that Pope Leo will be meeting with President Zelensky. We also know he met with the president of Peru before Mass today. It seems like he's already taking a growing interest and a lead in global affairs. Guys, we also saw him greeting and blessing people in the crowd. It was really incredible to witness Pope Leo, this new American Pope, interacting with the faithful that have gathered here in St. Peter's Square. And I think what's really incredible as we're watching this video is that, you know, there's so much focus on what a remarkable and historic moment this is and what a historic past few weeks it's been. But guys, we're only just getting started. We're going to be seeing a lot more of Pope Leo and what he does for the future of the church. Guys.
That is for sure quite a morning there in Vatican City. Maggie, thank you. We do want to turn now to the deadly storm outbreak in our nation's heartland. Scenes of destruction across multiple states, the death toll climbing as many of the hardest hit areas could face another round of dangerous weather. ABC's Alex Stone is in London, Kentucky with more. Alex, good morning.
Wait, good morning to you. There is just so much devastation here. It is like this, mile after mile, neighborhood after neighborhood, families cleaning up, and the number killed continues to rise. This morning, communities left reeling after deadly tornadoes and storms ripped through the Midwest, claiming at least 27 lives. In Kentucky, neighborhoods in ruin, entire rows of houses gone, roofs ripped off homes, cars shattered. Search and rescue teams combing through the wreckage, hoping to find survivors. Across the state, 18 people now confirmed dead.
We're going to need a lot of help. We're going to need a lot of funding. We're going to need a lot of cooperation.
Rescuers say many who lost their lives lived in these London neighborhoods. 8-year-old Ellie tells me it was the scariest few minutes of her young life as their home disintegrated around them.
Everything was was just breaking and shattering. It was one of the worst sounds.
Her mom, Kendra, injured with a broken foot and bruises from falling debris, held on to her babies to keep them alive.
And I can remember Jordan saying, God, please, please protect my babies. Please keep my babies safe.
Residents here have lost so much, like Carol Wells. The home she lived in for 50 years destroyed. But she says she feels lucky to be alive.
I'm just glad that God let us live another day.
And in Missouri, at least 7 people dead. This neighborhood destroyed after a tornado tore through. And in St. Louis, where 5 of those lives were taken, crews are working around the clock to clear debris. This massive tree uprooted from the ground. This man running for cover after it fell over his pool deck, narrowly missing him. Over in Illinois, the devastation sprawling there too. Residents beginning the painstaking process of picking up the pieces. And incredibly, guys, this home right here came from across the street. It landed where it is now. The family's possessions all over, refrigerators, countertops, toys. And we're told this family, neighbors tell us, they got out safely. Gio.
All right, Alex, thank you so much for that. Now to turn here to the blast outside a California fertility clinic. At least 1 person killed, and local authorities say it appears to be an intentional act of terrorism. ABC's Jacqueline Lee is there in Palm Springs this morning. Good morning, Jacqueline.
Gio, good morning. You can really get an idea of the magnitude of this explosion. The contents of the building spread across all 5 lanes of this main road. Now authorities are focused on identifying the person killed.
This morning, a car explosion rocking a Palm Springs fertility clinic in what officials are calling an act of terrorism.
Terrorism came knocking on the door of Palm Springs. We survived.
The blast so powerful, it injured at least 4 people, killed 1, and severely damaged buildings spanning multiple blocks Saturday.
We have a black cloud of smoke coming up.
This was probably one of the largest bombing investigations that we've had in Southern California.
Officials have a person of interest, but said they are not actively searching for a suspect. The person killed was found near the charred car on scene, but officials would not share if that person was a victim or suspect.
We heard this loud noise. We actually thought something had hit our building.
The car explosion originated in the parking lot of the American Reproductive Center, which describes itself as Coachella Valley's first and only full-service fertility center and IVF lab. The center, writing in a statement, "We are immensely grateful to share that no members of the ARC team were harmed and our lab, including all eggs, embryos, and reproductive materials, remains fully secure and undamaged." Authorities raided a property in 29 Palms believed to be related to the suspect, not providing more details, but clarifying they believe the explosion was an isolated incident.
The American Reproductive Center says it will be fully operational come tomorrow morning. And guys, get this. Authorities say that a witness noticed there was a tripod and a camera at the scene of the explosion as if it were being live streamed. The investigation continues. Janae.
Wow. Mind-blowing there, Jacqueline. Thank you for those updates. Turning now to the massive manhunt for inmates who busted out of a New Orleans jail. 7 of the 10 who escaped are still on the lam more than 72 hours later. ABC's Faith Abube is in New Orleans with more on the efforts to try to track them down. Good morning, Faith.
Yeah, good morning to you, Janae. The search for those 7 remaining fugitives growing more desperate this morning. We're now in day 3 since that brazen escape from this jail, and that was caught on surveillance camera. And still, a majority of those inmates are still on the run. Authorities are concerned for the potential threat to the public here. They're ramping up their pleas for public assistance to find them. Records show that some of the escaped inmates were being held on murder charges, one of them already convicted of second-degree murder. Now, investigators say a total of 10 inmates took advantage of defective locks at the jail here in New Orleans, crawled through a hole behind a toilet, and had at least a 7-hour head start on Friday before jail officials even noticed that they were gone. 3 of them are now back in custody, but again, authorities are struggling to find the rest of them. We know some officials have indicated that they believe that this was an inside job. They have launched an internal investigation here at the jail into the stunning security breach.
Still so many questions. Faith Abube, thank you. This morning, President Trump is back in the U.S. after his trip through the Middle East and facing some defiant Republicans in the House, blocking a key part of his domestic agenda. ABC's Selena Wang is in Washington. And Selena, it's back to the drawing board on Trump's mega bill. Good morning.
Hey, Whit, good morning. It's not back to square one, but this is a major setback for President Trump. He had a group of hardline House Republicans defying their party and voting to block President Trump's agenda from advancing. So this mega bill would extend his tax cuts and slash spending on programs like Medicaid and food stamps. Democrats voted down the measure, warning millions would lose their health care coverage, but these hardliners blocked it because they don't believe it goes far enough. They want to see even deeper spending cuts. They argue that this plan adds too much to the federal deficit. So the House Budget Committee, they're working through this weekend trying to get this bill back on track. And with President Trump, he's putting the pressure on his party, telling them to get this done, stop talking, and just get it done.
All right, so we'll see how all of that plays out. Meantime, Selena, this also comes as President Trump has a very important call with Russia's President Putin tomorrow.
Yeah, this is a high-stakes call. President Trump says he's speaking to Putin at 10 a.m. tomorrow, then following up with calls to Ukrainian President Zelensky and NATO leaders. And this comes just after Ukrainian and Russian officials met in Istanbul for their first face-to-face talks in more than 3 years. But no ceasefire deal was reached, and neither Putin nor Zelensky were actually present at that meeting. Now, it's unclear, though, what kind of pressure President Trump can put on Putin to get him to try and agree to a ceasefire deal when Russia and Ukraine are still far apart on key issues. Whit.
Selena Wang for us, thank you. And tune into This Week later this morning. Jonathan Karl speaks with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff about peace talks between Russia and Ukraine and nuclear negotiations with Iran. Plus, John speaks with Senator Rand Paul and Representative Ro Khanna about President Trump's Middle East tour. Janae?
All right, now to a medical first. A simple blood test to help diagnose Alzheimer's disease. It's just been cleared by the Food and Drug Administration for marketing. Neurologist Dr. Leah Croll is here to tell us more. Good morning to you, Dr. Croll. So the FDA gave this test a breakthrough device designation to fast track the approval process. Explain to us exactly what that means.
You guys, this is such a big deal. So 7 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's. That number is projected to double by 2060. So this is something that affects so many people and families in our country. And until now, the diagnostic tools that we've used to diagnose the disease have been really invasive, expensive, time-consuming tests like advanced brain scans or spinal tap. So to finally have a simple blood test that's accurate, fast, easy, and relatively cheap is huge. Really what this is going to allow us to do is get people that diagnosis faster. And this could not come at a better time because in the last couple of years, we finally have effective treatments for Alzheimer's. So to be able to get people quick diagnosis, accurate diagnosis, more important than ever.
Yeah, so scary that that number could double in just 3 decades now. How does this test work?
So the test looks for 2 proteins in the blood that are linked to the brain changes we see in Alzheimer's, and it's over 90% accurate, so very, very good. It's designed for older adults 55 and up with symptoms of cognitive decline. But important to point out here, you guys, it's not a standalone test. It's really just an addition to the diagnostic toolkit. You still need a comprehensive evaluation by a specialist for that official Alzheimer's diagnosis. It's going to be a little bit of time before this is rolled out to the masses. We need to make sure that we have guidelines in place to make sure that there's kind of safe use of the test, responsible use of the test. We don't want to stoke unnecessary fears or cause unnecessary testing. But again, the idea is soon we will have this great test that will get people to the right specialists, the right treatment, the right clinical trials even faster.
All right, Dr. Croll, thank you so much for being here. Really important stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now to the NHL playoffs and a thrilling overtime win for the Dallas Stars, now headed to the Western Conference Final. ABC's Ashin Singh is here with more on all the action there. So you were on the courts yesterday, now we're on the ice.
Yeah, that's right. We're on the ice, and it was heartbreak for Winnipeg yesterday as the Jets' Cinderella playoff run came to a sudden end. Playing to stave off elimination once again, the Jets took to the ice with high emotions. Star forward Mark Scheifele deciding to play after losing his father overnight. And for most of the game, they looked like a team on a mission, keeping things tight and forcing overtime. But in the extra frame, it was the Stars' Thomas Hurley who delivered a sudden death goal that punched Dallas's ticket for a date with the Edmonton Oilers in the Western Conference Finals. And now all eyes turn to the East, where tonight it's do or die for the defending champion Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs in a Game 7 matchup. It's been a back-and-forth series as Toronto will be counting on star Austin Matthews to help them advance. But guys, remember the Panthers stars have been here before. They're no strangers to these Game 7s. And, you know, the winner of tonight's matchup, they're going to go on to the Eastern Conference Finals to play the Carolina Hurricanes, guys.
All right. Yeah. Weekend sports with Austin.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much. Appreciate it, my man. All right, coming up here, our court case rewind. Cassie Ventura's testimony in the Sean Diddy Combs racketeering and sex trafficking trial, and what's ahead in the trial this week.
Also coming up, early Memorial Day deals, the top discounts that you can snag right now, and whether tariffs and the trade war will affect your shopping experience.
And it's do or die for the Nuggets and Thunder. ESPN's Chine Ogwumike joins us to preview today's action. We'll be right back here on GMA.
No. Dogs on the table.
You sure that's a dog?
Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah, it's a dog. Stitch. Welcome back to GMA on this Sunday morning. That's a scene, of course, from the much-anticipated Disney movie Lilo and Stitch, which is opening in theaters nationwide on Friday. Stitch has been driving around in his little mini car, getting everyone excited.
Look at that thing.
You know, GMA will be counting down to the big day with Lilo and Stitch stars and segments all week long. We got to see Lilo and Stitch. Yeah, we got Stitch last week.
I get a picture, but
because he was so fast on the little out of there. Yeah, it's good stuff. Looking forward to it. All right, let's take a look at some of the other top headlines that we're following on this Sunday morning. Happening right now, an NTSB investigator is expected to arrive on the scene of a small plane crash in Broomfield, Colorado. That's near Denver. The plane was returning to a local airport shortly after taking off when it crashed and went up in flames Saturday morning. Officials say there are no survivors, but still can't confirm how many people were on board.
Also right now, talks are set to resume today in an effort to end the strike at one of the largest commuter railroads in the country before the Monday rush. Although a deal was not reached yesterday, New Jersey Transit Management said that the bargaining session was productive. Engineers walked off the job on Friday in a dispute over pay. It's their first strike in 40 years. Some 350,000 daily commuters now affected.
But we do start this half hour with a court case rewind, a look at the testimony at the Sean Diddy Combs racketeering and sex trafficking trial as former girlfriend Cassie Ventura took the stand, and what's to come this week. Joining us is ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer. Brian, thank you for being here. So how well is the prosecution laying out its case? Ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura, she gave some riveting and graphic testimony over 4 days, but did it move the needle in regards to the racketeering or sex trafficking charges against Combs?
So I'm sorry to be the attorney and say yes and no to that question. And the reason why I say that is I think Cassie Ventura, we've been calling her the star witness. In my mind, she is the star victim. Her testimony was impactful. She was completely credible. I don't think there's a single word or statement that she made that people thought she's making it up. But the reason why I say no to this is right now the defense has done a very good job of positioning this argument of yes, she was abused. No one is questioning that. But was it abuse because of a domestic violence relationship, or was it abuse for trafficking? I think the star witness in this case will be someone from Combs' inner circle, as they say, that says, no, this was not a toxic relationship. We knew we were trafficking her. Here are the conversations outside of Cassie's purview that she doesn't know about, but we did. I'm waiting for that witness, and I think that's when we know how strong this case is.
So that will definitely be something to watch. And you were also in the courtroom last week, and I wonder just how did the jury react to this testimony from Cassie Ventura and some of the evidence presented?
So Cassie is this very soft-spoken individual and very matter-of-fact when she talks about a lot of the allegations. But there were parts of the testimony that you can see jurors really had a reaction to. When she broke down and talked about the work that she had done for her own rehabilitation, she began to cry. Near the end of her testimony, she again cried again. And then, of course, when they saw 7 different stills of those freak-offs, as stoic as many of the jurors were, we saw deep gulps, kind of sitting back in their seat, eyes widening up. And so we saw some very visceral reactions to some of the evidence that got put into this case.
Cassie's husband was actually in the courtroom, but he left at one point during her testimony.
Yeah, so I'm sitting in court, and actually, Whit, I was closer to Cassie's husband than I am to you right now. Oh, wow. And you can see like the back of his head. And I know a lot of the journalists and people are saying, well, he was so angry about the testimony. Yes, to some degree. You can see his face turning red. You can see his jaw tightening. Don't forget, this is not just Cassie's husband. This is the father of her 2 children and third on the way. You can see him staring at Combs at many times. But the reason why he ended up leaving is not not because I think the testimony got so difficult for him, but the defense is anticipating to call him as a witness in the future. And so a potential witness cannot listen to the testimony of another witness on the stand out of fear of changing or altering their testimony based on what they heard. So he did have to step out, but I don't think he's mad about the part that he stepped out in, because it was about the allegations of rape and the consensual intercourse that Cassie had with Combs after that.
Just a quick follow-up on that. That's interesting, the dynamic, because we also saw some of Diddy's kids, children, leave the courtroom too, but it seems like this is a bit different because of the potential testimony, right?
Absolutely, and I think you got to remember the time frame here, right? So it's specifically Combs' daughters left, his twin daughters who were born in 2006. They were, at the time that they left, we were talking about allegations of Cassie having an intimate relationship with Combs shortly after their birth, at the time that their mother, Kim Porter, broke up with Combs. And of course, you're hearing these very grotesque allegations about your father. So I think it's a matter of, this is the time that my parents broke up. This is shortly after I was born, and I don't want to hear about my father in this light. I think it might have been a mixture of that. And the daughters never actually came back after leaving, I think, the second day of Cassie's testimony, and she stayed on for another 2 days.
This is all really important context that we can only get from someone inside the courtroom, Brian, so thank you. But what about the latest witness to testify, Dawn Richard? Her allegations were also contained in her civil lawsuit against Diddy, which he broadly denied. What kind of impact do you think her testimony is having?
So she was the last one to testify on Friday, and we expect her to start back up again on Monday, but she has a very limited role here. She's talking not about the allegations, as you pointed out in her civil lawsuit, as to what she claims Sean Combs did to her, but specifically about an allegation of the violence that Sean Combs put upon Cassie, where Cassie was making breakfast, it seems. Sean Combs got very mad, said, "Where's my eggs?" Came down, took the pan, and started swinging it at Cassie. The impact here is that this isn't just violence for the sake of freak-offs. This is violence for the sake of their relationship, and also the seriousness of this violence as well that Dawn Richard saw firsthand. Like I said, she's probably going to continue to testify on Monday.
Yeah, so many details in this case. Brian, thank you so much for bringing us that. And make sure to follow the ABC News podcast Bad Rap, the case against Diddy. It is hosted by Brian. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And I'm hearing that it's also #1. So congratulations to you on that. If you're torn between hitting the beach Memorial Day weekend, but also want to shop the sales, now you can actually do both, because retailers are starting those sales very early. ABC's Will Gans is ready to save you some money. What you got?
That's right. Skies out, thighs out. In the bathing suit.
Nobody says that.
Oh, yeah. Shopping for deals. That's right. I gotcha. All right. Some are saying that this will be the last major sales holiday before tariffs kicked into effect this summer. So my goal for this segment is to hook y'all up with everything you need for the perfect backyard barbecue this summer, all at a discount. Now, while most of us here, present company is plenty capable of throwing shade all by ourselves, this 11-foot solar LED patio umbrella is $100 off its usual price for a total sale price of $349 from Home Depot. It's a great deal.
Wait, LED too?
Yeah, so you can have a little, if you're having cocktails as the sun is setting, you'll be charged up. All right. Cool. Next, my favorite part of any summer get-together, the food. Walmart is currently offering a summer cookout meal that serves 8 people, all for under $6 per person. Right. That includes hot dogs, hamburgers, sides, drinks, and dessert. That sale, is live now through July 6th. Now, where are we going to keep our sparkling pamplemousse liqueur? Well, I'm glad you asked, Janae. Check out this 70-quart wheeled igloo cooler. I know, look at that thing.
That looks military grade.
Listed at $199, a savings of 20% normal asking price. That's on Amazon.
That's my kind of cooler.
Yeah,
beverages must be protected.
That's a dad cooler.
That is. You can bring that on the beach, backyard. That thing's ready to go with you wherever you're going. Meanwhile, over at Lowe's, you can snag a Blackstone propane grill for $429, which is $70 lower than the original price. More than 5,000 people have bought that grill over the last week alone. So, act soon, I guess, if you're interested. Now, let's talk about the tariffs. The backyard barbecue items most likely to go up in prices will be plastic utensils, flatware, and cups, since these tend to be disproportionately imported from countries hit with those high tariffs. But the good news is that these have a long shelf life. So, there's inventory to last us another 60 to 90 days before we start to see those prices go up. So,
Janae loves those cups.
You guys!
She needs to restock up on the red solo cup.
Time and place.
ice.
She offers them to guests when they come for a nice
We
dinner.
hang by the red Solo cup.
Hey, if it works, it works. If it's been working since college, why change the recipe now? All right.
Yeah.
But what should you wait to buy? Well, experts say hold off on buying electronics like laptops and gaming consoles until Prime Day and back to school season, and hold off on home improvement tools until Labor Day.
Okay.
Sales will be better for those things then. And then for summer, like wear, things like that, like clothing, July and August.
Okay, there we go.
The end of the season.
Skies out, thighs out.
You heard it here first, people.
Not for everybody. Coming up on Good Morning America, the teams looking to advance in the NBA playoffs. ESPN's Chine Ogwumike previews the matchups, including today's do or die game. Stay with us. We are back now on GMA with the teams looking to make a statement as we head deeper into the NBA playoffs. Joining us now to break it all down is ESPN basketball analyst Chine Ogwumike. Chine, it's always great to have you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So let's jump right in here. Do or die, Game 7 tonight between the Nuggets and the Thunder. What do you think it will be the deciding factor here in terms of who comes out on top?
First of all, I want you guys to know that if my voice seems dead, it's because I've been in basketball heaven. I was in the Garden for Knicks Game 6 and at Barclays for Liberty Ring Night. But to answer your question about today, we have the two best words in sports, Game 7. And on top of it, it's the battle of MVPs. Three-time MVP Nikola Jokic of the Nuggets versus the presumptive MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, the Joker, he's a walking triple-double, but there are three major factors that might give the edge to the Thunder. One is health. Their squad is healthy and the youngest in the NBA. They got them fresh legs. Two, they're at home where they've been having the best home record in the NBA. And three, they're coming off of a loss. It will be motivated. So this will be a brawl for it all. And I cannot wait because this matchup reminds me of Eminem. Will the real MVP please stand up? Please stand up.
And Chine, you just mentioned the Knicks taking it in 6. Well, now they're heading to Indiana to face off against the Pacers, a rivalry with deep playoff history. What do the Knicks need to do to keep this magical postseason alive and away from a hungry Indiana team?
Look, I am not a New Yorker, but as a basketball fan, this has been like the greatest 48 hours of my life. You've got Spike Lee, Timothy Chalamet, Bad Bunny, Fat Joe. I am distracted, but what the Knicks need to do is keep it star-studded on the court as well. We saw them win with grit and toughness in Game 6. They were the aggressors. They were the hunters. Karl Anthony Towns, he was literally flexing in the paint. Jalen Brunson was blowing kisses after knocking down tough contested threes. OG Anunoby was playing defense. Josh Hart, his face got bloody. It did not matter. He was smiling like a crazy man, like a warrior. People, stars love the Knicks, and they love this squad because they don't play perfect, but they play hard. So to beat the Pacers, it's a how bad do you want it? They've got to play defense because one thing I know, this city, they want it really bad.
They do.
That's for sure.
Hey, Chine, it's also the start of the WNBA season, so we had some good games yesterday. What stood out to you?
All right, you guys. Caitlin Clark, she came in entering the preseason as the favorite for MVP for the 2025 season. And even though it's just one game, a very small sample size, you can see that it's no longer just talk. She can truly be the MVP this year. In her first game of the year, she had a triple-double, 20, 10, and 10. It's just her second year, and she's already tied with Candace Parker for the third most triple-doubles in WNBA history. And most importantly, her team had a convincing win by 35 points. You know, the Fever, they made offseason moves, and now with Tawana Bonner, Natasha Howard, they can compete with the best of the best, and they might bring out an MVP in Caitlin Clark.
Look, like you said, Caitlin Clark, when she shows up, she shows up. Thank you so much, Chine. And ABC's coverage of today's NBA game between the Thunder and the Nuggets starts at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. This was a great day, huh?
It was a good day. Good Sunday.
Thank you for starting your day with us.
Absolutely. And you can catch more weekend news coverage over on ABC News Live.
And in the words of our friend Will Gans, skies out, thighs out. Enjoy the week, everybody.